Hello, hello. Um, Gunóbrega, I saw you yesterday. Eu vi o Gunóbrega What Happened to the Arts. I was like, oh, ótimo. Ó, tá falando oi pra você também, André.
Hello.
Um, so maybe did you see? For the first time, I managed to pin something onto a live.
Very
I'm
proud
feeling
of you.
very millennial. So maybe I will start by introducing you, André, and thank you for being here. Although we're not together, it feels like we are in this together, so that's exciting. Oi, Fábio, Miguel. Um, I met André 16 years ago, maybe, or less, 14, when he was still in art school, and I was doing also an art course at FAP, Brazilian College for the Arts, where you also did your master's degree, right, André?
No, I did in USP, my master.
The master's was in USP. Okay.
Yeah.
So since then, you've had exhibitions at Olha Thalita. You've had exhibitions at the Museum of Modern Art in São Paulo, MAM. You've had exhibitions at Tomiotaki. Here in New York, you had a solo show at the Bossy Gallery. You have an upcoming show, super exciting one, at the Broham Museum in Berlin in 2021. You've also done the Red Bull residency and an exhibition at Sesc, also in São Paulo. And then I was trying to, as soon as we were quarantined and people started talking about what's going to happen to the arts, I was like, oh, Florissance has begun. So you've been talking for about Florissance for the last 4 years?
I started develop the Florissance in school, so from 2006.
So much more, 14 years.
Yeah, 14 years. But the last 5 years, I've been more dedicated to it.
Because I remember, at least back in when you were in school, you did a lot of paintings, and they all had a connection with the camera, the photographic camera. So I remember you would paint a lot of landscapes that included the camera, and then you started doing sculptures that looked like photographic gardens. And you also had photography. But more recently, maybe I'll even show a photo for people who haven't seen your work before. But here's a garden that you did at the Annenberg Center for Photography last year, right?
Yes.
Oh, so you have a sunflower there.
Yes.
And then now, so for the last 4 or 5 years, you've been doing mostly signs where you talk about the Florissance, right? So for people who have seen...
It's mirrored. It's weird.
You can't read? Okay, so you can just imagine that's how it looks, but then you have to read. Florissance, art as a long-term project to reconnect with nature. Welcome to the Florissance. So how did...
I spent a lot of years doing these gardens, and maybe the last year I could see the connection between these years and the Florissance very recently, because in this one is also trying to make a connection with nature,
right?
But through photography. So it's not. So they link in this way. When I wrote that sign that you show in your iPad, is writing, "Welcome to the Florissance." Is when art reconnects with nature. So in this project, we're also trying to reconnect with nature. So
right. So it's not different. It's just a continuum of the same idea.
Yes.
And you talk about Florissance as not being a rupture, something that will break from contemporary art, but that will smoothly transition. Would you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So in 2006, when we were studying together, I thought that my job is not to be an artist, a regular artist, but an art gardener. And the reasons that the transition from the contemporary to what comes next, that was my goal to move forward, needs time to happen. And this transition needs to be cultivated. It will be not like just one work of art. I have to work in the nature of art. So that's why this transition will not be like a rupture, like when the modern happened. They just forget everything that was behind and start something new. In my point of view, this change would be like a seed sprouting. So when you start to cultivate something and then slowly this seed sprout and start to grow, it's like contemporary art will not be out, will not be done. Will just start to be something else.
In one of your signs, you say that, right? Contemporary art has sprouted. Florescence has begun.
Yes.
So it's almost as if... Fala de novo, say it again.
The last one.
In the most recent one, right? So it just happened.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, when you compare the job of the artist with the job of the gardener, what exactly do you think artists should learn from the way gardeners work?
The artist, I'm also an artist. I can have both jobs. So as an artist, I try to create something that, in a way, is just a concept. And it doesn't matter if somebody will understand or if somebody will connect with other people. I decide when this thing I'm doing becomes art. I do a sculpture. Now is art. As we do for like hundreds of years. The artist decides when the work that he's or she's doing becomes art. But the art gardener needs to cultivate the work. So I put a sign and I cultivate one idea and I present different ways. I have like educational project.
Right, I want to talk about that later.
And I keep cultivating. And one day, this project may sprout, like the signs. And for 5 years, putting the signs. And I cannot say that's art as an art gardener.
Right.
I can just cultivate. And now, after 5 years, a museum invited it to bring the fluorescence there.
Amazing.
And then maybe, and other people also bring the fluorescence to their own life.
So would you say, go ahead,
in this moment, when become collective, then have a better chance to become art. It's not my decision, it's like a collective decision.
So in that sense, it's very similar to the job of a gardener, because as you mentioned before, the signs are almost like a seed that you're planting, but it depends on everything else, right? It depends on the space where it's planted and the conditions of the place where it was planted. So it's a much more, it's not so much the decision. So as you were saying, the artist makes a decision and that's enough. The seed being planted is not enough. There's a lot of other things that, like, so it has to be watered and it has to be, as you said, cultivated, and it becomes a much more collective experience, because that's something you also say when you talk about your work, right?
Yes. Why? That's why I put the signs in New York, mostly, because it's fertile for art.
Yes, I was wondering, like, I love, because I'm always in the kind of art circuit, going to galleries and museums and art fairs, the location where you choose to plant your seeds or like to put your signs are very strategic, right? Like they know who they want to talk to, the seeds.
Yes, usually I put near like art schools in Pratt, Bushwick, and Lower East Side, and near the Whitney.
Yes, amazing.
So, and I have a good example of these signs, how they work. Maybe a year ago, a few months ago, I received an email and was saying the fluorescence has arrived Canada. I said, wow, nice. Arrived Canada. And then in the email, the woman was saying that she's a poet
Uh-huh.
and she just finished to write a book, and she was looking for a new title, and she dreamed like about this new word, fluorescence,
Uh-huh.
and she told me that she never heard before.
Uh-huh.
She just was sleeping and thought about it, and then she googled a word, and then she saw the signs in Brooklyn,
Uh-huh.
and she remembered that 3 months before she saw one of these signs.
Amazing.
So it stays there, and then she was asking permission to use the word, and I said, of course, like a public word.
Yeah, and that's kind of the idea, right? To have it be something
Yeah.
that is not just yours, but that belongs to everybody, that is has a life of its own.
And I cannot decide how it's going to sprout. Like this book, this poetry book, I cannot force that. It's like a garden, because you cannot force what's going to happen. It's like a plant. I cannot force the tomato to become a watermelon. It's like
Yes.
I cannot force this girl to put the fluorescence in the title, or to have or think about it. Have to be like a natural sprout.
And also a natural cycle where you
Yeah.
just have to sit and watch and pay attention to what's happening. You also talk about how it relates, like, so the fluorescence relates to the garden in the sense that it's not just about moving ahead. So it's not about what's happening next with the contemporary, but also looking back.
Yes, the name fluorescence was chosen because it connection to the Renaissance, where
Mm-hmm.
all our current relation with nature, the scientific relation, the illuminist relation, started in our also our art, the way we perceive art today.
Uh-huh.
The artist is also
Mm-hmm.
started there. So the fluorescence go back to the past, but
Mm-hmm.
also to the future, because if we are cultivating the flowers of tomorrow,
Mm-hmm.
if we do a good job, we're going to harvest, we hope to harvest flowers.
Right.
So the artist or the art gardener, or the way we perceive art, becomes not only contemporary but also in the long terms. That's, I
Yes,
think,
because you were saying yesterday when we spoke over the phone that when you're taking care of a garden, before you water a plant, you have to think, when was the last time I watered it? And also, the flowers may only come up, months later after you've planted a seed. So there's this idea of that you described in a way that I really liked: one step ahead, but one step backwards, right? So it's kind of this navigating between past and future, more than just the present, which is how the contemporary is more is framed usually.
yes, usually when you see like a contemporary art exhibition in the wall, a lot of the times the curator says, oh, this work of art represents what we are living, and bring to light some things that we couldn't see before.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine in a fluorescence art exhibition would be something like, oh, in this exhibition have proposals for the future, and this exhibition may plant some seeds, some ideas that we can change. I think it's a little change, a little twist.
Yeah, you were
But
describing. Say it again, Scopa.
it's a little twist that changes everything. Because if you want
Exactly.
something for the future, you need to have like an educational project. You need to do art that other people can incorporate, or they can be part of it.
It's more like a practice in that sense, right?
I think so. Like I don't know, if I stop it, putting this hanging the signs maybe 2 years ago, maybe the project will die. I don't know. It's like a practice. You have to keep doing.
And you said it for the Broham Museum in Berlin. You are thinking about doing a debate, like inviting viewers, the museum goers, to have a conversation with you. Like, it's still up in the air. It's only 1 year. It's still 1 year away from today, but
Yes, I was thinking to invite to a debate, because one time in New York, I hang up one of the first signs I wrote, uh, "Welcome to the fluorescence. The contemporary art has become outdated. The fluorescence has begun."
mm-hmm.
next to the sign, somebody wrote, because of the Gretchen, you know, the Mean Girls Week or something, the movie. And somebody wrote, Gretchen, stop to make the fluorescence happen. Will not going to happen. Something like that, like the movie. And it'll put a sign. Okay, let's make a debate. Contemporary fluorescence debate here, 5 o'clock next Sunday.
Right. So you're open to conversation.
Yes.
And then you talk about the importance of education and conversation for the art gardeners. And one of the things you did was to train at the studio of Olafur Eliasson in his Little Sun Foundation.
I did not actually do a training there. We did like a partnership.
A partnership. So then you you taught kids in a summer camp here in New York how to do their own energy, right? So that they would be sustainable in doing their own energy.
Yes, this camp,
right?
If you live in New York and have a kid, is the most amazing place called Use Them. And they have this, it's in the middle of the woods, and they made a partnership with this foundation to create a sustainable class. They invite me to lead the class. So in the class, we cultivate energy in the same way we cultivate tomatoes or lettuce in the garden. So we harvest, for example, we harvest, for example, coldness from the wind, or energy from like the music, from the gong, or we do like solar power barbecue. So we generate all kinds of energy, electricity, hot water from.
There was one where they would ride a bike, and then the bike would become energy.
You ride a bike and get energy. We did last year a hammock power generator, so you swing the hammock and get energy from.
Amazing.
So it's perfect because you can be lazy and nobody can complain. You're doing nothing in the hammock, and you can reply, I'm generating energy.
Amazing.
So
and you do that every year. So you've been doing it for 3 years now?
For 5 years. These years, if happen, will be the 5th year.
Okay. Amazing. Do you want to show because one of the things that is part of your art gardener practice is that since you decided you were going to be an art gardener, you started designing your own overalls. Yes. And painting your thumb green, right?
Yes.
So, and you do your own overalls. Do you want to show off your closet?
Yeah, so I'm just in front of my closet, and everybody that comes here, they ask what your closet looks like. So in the first time, let's see. Let me go a little far away so you can see.
Amazing.
So it's like a cartoon almost, I think.
Yeah, it's like a character like Monica.
This is my winter one.
Okay, so it's a little warmer.
Yes. And it's made like a heavy material.
It's like a felt?
It's like a felt, yes. I have a fancy one. When you invite me to your next opening, I can wear this one.
It's like your gala outfit.
It's like a pinstripe suit, a fabric overall.
Amazing.
But if you invite me to, I don't know, your boat.
You also have linen. A summer.
Yeah, this is like a casual linen for if it's winter in the boat. Like. But if it's summer, let's see, I can wear, for example, these shorts.
Amazing.
Shorts.
And do you have a model, like it's shaped in a way that it's always the same?
Yes, I have a model, but sometimes I have to make a little bit bigger because, a little bit. I asked the tailor, can you make an inch bigger in the side, please?
After the quarantine, for sure.
Yes. I'll have my quarantine version. And you want to see my first overall?
Yes, please.
It's from 2006. I just counted today. So how many overalls do you think I have?
33.
No, more.
How many?
So this is my first overall. Wait. It was very weird. Oops.
So long sleeves.
Yeah, long sleeves and
kind
have
of a
this
sand
uh,
beige collar.
And have like a gola, I don't know, a turtleneck.
A collar.
Yeah. And I wear to. I did like a contemporary birthday party.
Oh, you did?
So in 2006, I invited everyone to come to a birthday party from the contemporary. And in this party, the contemporary, the idea is that if he becomes older, the contemporary have to become something else. Because if time passes from the contemporary and becomes the next, is the way
next movement.
You have to go forward from time. So in this birthday party, it was like a huge party. 300 people came to my mother's house, and I was wearing these overalls in the cake.
Amazing.
And then the music, I invented new music for the contemporary. That was "Happy Birthday to Me." In English, maybe "Happy Birthday to Me. I am the contemporary. Now I will make birthday and move on." Something like that.
Amazing. And I really liked when you described, because I was asking you to give me an example of an artwork that looks like it belongs to the Florissants, and you spoke about the divisor from by Lija Papi from 1968.
Oh, yes.
And I would love to hear you telling me more about why it is a Florissants artwork.
So I think it's the best example I have what could be a Florissants artwork. Because Lija Papi, she did this work in the late 60s, in the 70s, and she created as an artist, as a performance. So, and since then, she performed this work in museums, in galleries, in the streets, but always as an art practice. So maybe 2 years ago in the biennial, she performed outside in the Ibirapuera Park, and she invited like performers and guests to it's just like an art bubble thing, right?
Right.
And then she performed the same thing in London, in Tate.
Like the performance like exists even after her passing. Mesmo depois que ela morreu, né?
Yes, and this work is like a lot of women, they get like a cloth and they cut slots, they cut space so they can put their head on. So they're connected by this wave.
It's almost like a white sheet, a gigantic white sheet where people stick their heads out.
Yeah.
So that they're all part of the same body.
Yes. And then last year, when Bolsonaro was trying to be elected,
the current president,
very rude with women. So they protest. Was like a woman march against Bolsonaro. So they use the same idea as Lija Papi in the protest. So, but instead of white cloth, was a red cloth. So they incorporate this art idea into culture. So they create this huge wave of red cloth and a lot of heads on it in the Paulista Avenue.
The largest avenue in São Paulo.
Was new in São Paulo, was the first time they did it, and I think they repeated that. And this work of art stopped to be just a contemporary work of art and start to be part of the culture, the part of the passage of time. So maybe in 2 years they can do again the same protest, and becomes part of the collective.
It's almost as if.
Sorry. It was not Lija Papi decision. was a collective decision. That's why it's an art gardener work.
It becomes part of it's its own thing. It doesn't depend on the artist anymore solely to exist.
Yes, she cultivated, in my point of view, in this work, we can think that she worked as an art gardener. She cultivated, she presented the work and the idea, and one day sprouted. Like I don't think she could imagine that is out of the work has its own life now and becomes like a different
long
thing.
term.
Yeah.
Because you also talk about that, right? That the long term artwork, something that is not just for right now. So it's still sprouting, and again the reference of the garden comes in handy, right? So it's something that's still happening. It can have different seasons and cycles, but it's long lasting.
Yes, and it's the same difference between the artist and the art gardener that we are talking. Because in this work, she created something that other people can do. She was generous. She was she had the educational side inside the project. So it's not a project that I did a painting or I did like my camera flowers, and then that's a problem about this camera flowers. Just I can do it. Right. People can take pictures of it, but that's why it's still an artist work. And that's the same reason, in the other end, that Ligia Papi was an art gardener work. Right. Because she did something that other people could do.
It's not so much about authorship. Who is the author? It kind of belongs to everybody after it's out there in the world, right?
And the way we think about the original work of art changes also, because in an artist point of view, an original work of art is something that only I can do and I did first.
Right.
Right? And nobody can do it. Like a Jeff Koons painting, right? That's original and that's it. Even if you want, you can't do it.
Right.
In other hand, an art gardener, original work of art, is when the work of art originated culture, like Ligia Papi. The one she did before only became original when the protest happens, in this point of view, in this fluorescence point of view.
Right.
So imagine that more the work is copied, more original it becomes.
Yes, it makes sense. Para Salão dos Recusados, amanhã vai ter essa mesma conversa em português. So for the Brazilian crowd, we'll do the same thing tomorrow in Portuguese. Amanhã em português no mesmo horário. But yeah, I love this idea. And you also, if you think about the artwork becoming something that is not just off the, you're creating energy.
Yes, I'm not lazy, I'm creating energy.
But a lot of people have been talking about the movement from ego to eco. Yes. And that seems to be a little bit on the same vibe.
Yeah, you told that, and a lot of people are thinking about how this situation we are now,
the quarantine,
is in a way that we are so isolated, but in the same way we are being in touch with nature in a way we never did before, because virus is a natural thing, and the same way that we are in touch with that, in that thinking about in the long terms and how nature works, we cannot just decide to solve the problem. We need time,
right,
to solve the problem. And it's like it's like a global warming in a very short time, because global warming problems are the same scale, but they take 10 years to happen. So people doesn't, and the solutions also can take 20 years to happen.
Right.
So in the long-term mentality that maybe we could gain in this process that we are.
I hope so.
Yeah. And we can see that nature can come back. You know, the dolphins come back and the whales. the pandas are making babies in the zoos from after 10 years without doing nothing. You saw
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
No, there's definitely the feeling of a shift, and that's why when quarantine started, I thought about you, and I was like, is that fluorescence? We still don't know, but there's definitely potential. And I think that's 30 minutes of conversation for today, and we'll do it again tomorrow. But if anyone has any questions, se alguém tiver pergunta, pode escrever em português, a gente responde bilíngue. But I really love the idea that the signs that you spread around New York and Berlin and other cities are potentially gonna sprout. So
Yes,
I
and
look forward to
it took
seeing.
5 years. It took 5 years.
Amazing.
That's an art gardener job, and I'm very happy about it.
André, thank you so much. Muito obrigada. And I will see you again tomorrow at 2 p.m. New York time, 3 p.m. Brazil time. Amanhã em português, às 3 da tarde em São Paulo, 2 da tarde em Nova York.
Okay, thank you. It was a pleasure to be here.
Obrigada, curte sua rede.
Thank you. Bye.